Okay, so now we have an estimate of about how many customers or how many households are likely customers for my business. So let's temporarily get rid of this information. And we see that the next topic that we need to address is an estimate of the average check size. Again, the sources for this information, these sources are on that handout that you received on Wednesday. From other sources, I found that the average check Domino's is $16. By the way, that really surprised me. And that the average check at California Pizza, depending upon where the California Pizza restaurant was located and the time of day, was between $25 and $45. So with that information in hand, knowing that my pizza is much more like California Pizza than Domino's Pizza, I'm going to use a figure of $30 as the average check, especially since my numbers are households and not individuals. So I'm going to think, and I think it's a fairly conservative estimate, that the average household check when people come to my restaurant would be $30. Okay, so that gives me an average check size. So then the next thing I need to do is to combine all this information to calculate estimated sales. And that takes us back to our, that takes us back to our Excel spreadsheet, our sales calculations. And once again, we're on the wrong page. So here's how we calculate those sales. We have our average numbers of households, a little over 7,000 households. We have the average check being $30 and $30. And we know from the information that we talked about earlier when we discussed the assumptions, 77% of people eat pizza once a month, so that's the reason for the 12 in this column. And 35% of the people eat pizza out once a week. And I'm assuming here that they don't really eat every week, so I'm using 50 weeks instead of 52 weeks. So if you take that little more than 7,000 households times $30 per visit, and 77% of these people go out once a month, so times 0.77 times 12, that gives you an estimated potential revenue from this group of almost $2 million. You'll notice if you do the math, you do this actual math, you'll come up with a figure that has dollars and cents. These are just estimates, so cents make no sense, as it were. And as a matter of fact, I could probably just leave off this 22. Again, we're merely estimating. And then we do the same thing for these people who would eat pizza once a week. Total number of households, we need to reduce it to this 35%. Average check is $30. Average number of times, 50 times they would spend that $30, but it's only 35% of these people. If you multiply all this together, these people account for almost twice as much, almost $4 million in potential revenue. So you add all that up and you come up with $5.7 million. But now remember, that's the total potential revenue in the trading area. It's not mine, but it's a total potential revenue in the trading area. On the very heroic assumptions that all of my assumptions have some bearing. Okay, now remember the last assumption, that I probably am only going to get about 5% of the market, especially since I'm a new business. So take 5% times this 5.6, 5.7 million, and it comes out that my estimated sales revenue is going to be almost $284,000. Sounds pretty good. Do we think that is anywhere near accurate? And so that's the next point here. Let's do a reality check. Let's compare the estimate that I just calculated, excuse me, with actual revenue of pizza businesses in my area, and let's see if this is anywhere near reality. So for that, we go to BizMiner. And let's first look at pizza businesses in the Providence area, or BizMiner. And here we scroll down a little bit, we find that, we'll take a look here at average annual sales for firms, for small businesses and startups. And startups are what we're interested in because that's what we're doing. We're starting a new business. And well, while there weren't any startups in 2005 or 2007, but when there was a startup in 2006, the average sales were 150,000. That's almost half of what I estimated. So that seems a little low, or my estimates are way too high. So we can check one other of BizMiner's sources. And there we go to this one, where we look at pizza restaurants in general. And this is the profit and loss profile for startup businesses. Let's go back to this other one for just a second. This report is the market research report, local market research report for pizza businesses in the Providence, Fall River, Warwick, Rhode Island, Massachusetts area. So that's where I got the information about the one pizza business over 3 years that made $150,000 a year. Okay, so now we're looking at startup pizza businesses all across the country. So it's pizza restaurants, startup, that's all across the country, but it's startups only. So when I look down here, the first thing that I see is that, well, yeah, across the country, countrywide, businesses make a little bit more money. In 2005, on average, the revenue was $167,000. In 2006, it was about $258,000. And in 2007, it had dropped to a little under $200,000. So what does that suggest? It suggests that my estimates of $287,000 is probably very optimistic. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it as a best case scenario, and we'll come back to this idea of best and worst case scenarios in just a little bit. But for right now, we've calculated, we've made our assumptions, we've gone out and grabbed some figures, and we've made some calculations for estimated sales revenue.